Alrighty folks, want to welcome you back to another video from Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. Well, been doing videos for a while now, getting up to some of these bigger categories. Well, this one I wanted to cover how to hook up multiple Wi-Fi devices to each other. Because a lot of people I talk to say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, it won't work. Oh, you have too many issues. Oh, you have this, you have that. It won't do this. Most of that's because they're taking them straight out of the box, hooking them up, and having issues. You've got to go in and configure these. I have videos on how you actually go in to these devices, how to remote into them, how to log into them, how to change your passwords, how to change your security. Go back and watch those videos because that's what those videos are for. When you get to things like this, that you can do that. There are multiple ways you can hook these all up to do multiple different styles of different ways of different things you want to do. The next video I have coming out is the deployment of a network. That will talk about all my videos coming up that I've had, how all of these things all work together to actually get everything to work together however you want to set it up. So that is one of the key important things that are out there, the same as this. A lot of people don't do any of this stuff anymore because nowadays you can get a cable modem that does everything. It has your wireless, it has your switch, it has your phone, everything all on there. You just plug in a couple of wires and you're done. Well, not necessarily. I have videos about wiring. All your Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7, Cat 8, all these other things that are out there now. Cross cable, patch cable, riser cables, all these things come into play. These still come into play here. Because knowing on what you need and how to do these things correctly, depending on what devices you connect, has gotten a lot easier because these devices are now designed to figure out what it needs to do to communicate to this device. The old days, this device was set a certain way and you had to make it a certain way so that device connected to the other device. You can connect computer to computer and have a network that way. You don't need any of these devices to connect this computer to another computer. That, you just need to make a special cable, a cross cable. I don't think I've done a video on that. I'll be probably doing one on that too, coming up. But, so, that explains a little bit of how these switches and stuff are a factor. And how things have changed. Nowadays, for security-wise and other reasons why, you might need multiple Wi-Fi routers on a network. One reason I brought up in the other video, security-wise, department-wise. Maybe you have an accounting and you have a research department. Maybe you have an accounting department that needs to get on to Wi-Fi to access certain servers or certain resources only available to the accounting or to restrict services to the accounting. So you could use like an accounting, this style, and then you have a research or development, you have a different router, Wi-Fi router. How you hook these up can vary. Most big businesses, they have a switch in the back, multiple switches in the back. They'll run this one into a switch, they run that one into a switch, and everything's good. But how do you manage these? That's when you get into a little bit more of the IT side. The technical side is how do you manage these to know who's doing what? There are lots of variables. You can actually hook this one up to a main switch, run this kind of device off of this device, run these kind of devices off of this device, and monitor everything through this device. Depending on how you set this up wiring wise and where the cables are plugged. There's different variables here. So I wanted to go through some of this because a lot of the things I've heard is people set this one up and they take the cable out of there, plug it into where it says internet. You can do that. But the one recommendation I give is do not have this the same IP as this. So if you're using 192.168.11 for this, use 1.2 for this. Because what happens is, depending on devices are getting smarter. They can handle routing the traffic through multiple routers that have the same IP address. But what happens is it makes it easier for your packages to travel and be routed. Especially nowadays with all the security encryption, security software, and all this other stuff. It sometimes can throw a fit because it's going through two devices with the same IP address. So it looks like something's wrong, that something's cloning, somebody's doing something funny, so it stops the transmission. So there's a lot of little things out there security wise, a lot of settings you can do. If you need separate names for networks, separate passwords for networks, you can hook up multiple devices. So I wanted to go through this a little because I hear a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't work, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. I do it all the time. I know how to do it. I've been doing it for a long time. There's other reasons why you might want to do this at home. If you have security cameras, you have, like I mentioned, TVs, all these smart TVs, all these other things now. These devices can really only physically talk to one device at a time. They cannot talk to really multiple devices. Wi-Fi 6 is a little different. Wi-Fi 6 has different channels in the bandwidth. So when it communicates out, it'll send out three communications or 4 communications on the bandwidth. But it is only communicating at once. It is not talking to this one and this one and this one all at the same time. It's actually broadcasting all out, like highway lanes. It all comes out at one time. So there's a slight difference, but it's basically the same. It communicates at one time, receives, sends, talks to another device, sends, receives, back and forth. These things have gotten so fast you can't really tell there's any kind of latency or lag or anything between them. But you might want to do is, depending on how many connect, I've shown a video on those access points, ceiling mount for businesses. If you look at those and you look at these, even when I did a video, it told you how many devices can be connected to this network or per box. There's certain limitations still there. So, depending on how big of a network you got or what you want to do, maybe you have children. You could set up 2 different Wi-Fi networks. The children are on one with all the really strong parental blocks and guards and all the other keyword blocks and all the other kind of stuff that can be done. And a lot of these, if you have the firewall integrated and other stuff that you can do, depending on the device, there's a lot of settings you can do. So maybe if you're a parent or in a business environment where you have CEOs and a big bunch of honchos and all of that stuff, you can give them their own Wi-Fi without all those kind of restrictions. But then you can give all your other employees or other people or children another one with certain restrictions. So it blocks all profanity, swearing, whatever you need to block in your business or at home. You can do all of these things off of that. These are some of these little security options you can do. So these are some of the primary reasons why you would want to set up multiple Wi-Fis and why you would need multiple Wi-Fi. Maybe you have a mesh network, you have a big property, like I mentioned, you have it all spread all out, have a smaller home, whatever. I mentioned this brand, you can mesh 2 of these. Maybe you buy 2 of these, you mesh those in your house, you mesh this all over the property. You have 2 different Wi-Fi frequencies, 2 different channels, 2 different everything. Like I mentioned, I have my TVs hooked to this, wired into this. The reasoning is why on the other video. There's a lot of variables here when you get into multi-Wi-Fis. It can be done. There are multiple ways you can set this up. That's why I wanted to go through this, because a lot of people, when they mention things, oh, I can't get it to work, I can't get this, I can't get that. Well, why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to do that? I try to get into a lot of these questions to try to figure out why and what they're trying to configure and why and how. It is really a a really well developed thing that a lot of people are doing because of that reason, not to slow down certain devices, especially for gaming. A lot of people have a dedicated device for gaming because, again, it goes into the permissions, it goes into the settings, it goes into a lot of things that gaming, you want to prioritize certain things on your internet. So you have a certain device set up for gaming. Your PlayStations, your GameCubes, your computers, your Nintendo, all the type of stuff that's out there. You have a Wi-Fi for gaming. Really, I don't use Wi-Fi for gaming. Hardcore gaming, I still recommend networked. It's getting to a point where the speeds are getting so fast that it's going to catch up here. It's pretty much there that it's at a point where it's pretty consistent. It's good. But of course, you got to pay the big bucks for having that kind of internet connection, having that kind of device. Not only your router, but your actual gaming system that you have it on has to have the same speed and connections and all of that. So, there's certain reasons for that. So this is why this video is here. And this could be for businesses, co-businesses. Maybe you have 2 businesses next to each other where you own them, and one business is doing one thing, one business is doing another, and maybe you want to share internet. Instead of paying $80 for internet here and $80 for internet here, you share internet, you share a network. There's multiple reasons and why. Talked about these. They have a triple band that has a backbone network. This could actually be your wireless bridge from one building to another building where you have this device plugged into this device on each end. So there's lots and lots of variables that I wanted to touch on. Because if you start looking, you'll start seeing long-range Wi-Fi antennas that can shoot 20 miles, 30 miles. You'll see a lot of weird stuff out there. There's a lot of weird stuff that people are using business-wise and communication-wise, and a lot of things out there that you can use. But there's a lot of little simple stuff that I don't really hear a lot of people talk about. So that's why go back and watch this other one that I did about the Wi-Fi mesh and all of that with things like repeaters. There's a lot of variables here that you can do. And again, I mentioned this and this and this and this and this all do the same thing. It's just a little different. You can use all these pieces intermixed. You can do whatever you want. So that's what makes this hard. That's what's really going to make this video hard to break down, And I wanted to show this because I don't really hear anybody talk about this. It's pretty much use this or use that when you dig in, or add this to add to that. But people don't really explain that. Really, when I showed it, you have a port for your line in and a line out. That line out can go to anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a computer. But how you configure these devices is the key. So that's what I wanted to kind of bring up on this. Because knowing what this IP address is, that IP address, and that IP address is on the devices, and if you turn off like DHCP and stuff where it doesn't hand out IPs, and you leave it on your primary device, whatever your first device is, this device will broadcast its Wi-Fi. When you connect, it'll talk through down to this device and pull the IP and go back and give you the IP. You can monitor everything out of this device. Who's connected? So you know if there's people that aren't on your network. You can block them. You can do whatever you want. You can set some restrictions up depending on the devices, on what they can see, what they can't see, what they can do. Business grade one, I've done a video on that has the full integrated firewall, has all of that type of stuff. What's really nice, I've used that, and I did this kind of a step where I have multiple Wi-Fi routers where the main router is pulling the IP. The reason why is then I can monitor who's on where and why. That is easier than me having to log into 5 different ones to figure out, oh, okay, who is this and why is this person logged in here? Do I need to change the security key? What do I need to do to secure the network? So there's a lot of little variables there that you can do. If you're really not worried about who has access to your Wi-Fi, well, you should. Because of legality reasons. If someone does something illegal on your Wi-Fi and gets backtracked to your Wi-Fi, then you have legality reasons. So that's why you want to make sure you have the security. You want to make sure you have your Wi-Fi password on there. Because if you don't have a Wi-Fi password on your Wi-Fi and you leave it open, you kind of are more responsible, I believe, legally, because you left it unsecure. If someone hacks in and stuff, you could kind of say, hey, someone breached it. And you could kind of dispute some of what happened. But you can't, they won't know if it was actually you who did it or someone else who did it because you weren't secure. So you have security concerns. This is really where a lot of this comes down. That's why if you're doing businesses, a lot of businesses don't really use Wi-Fi, because you have that security concern. Some businesses really don't care. It's easiest. That's what we want. People can move around. They can do this. They can do that. Well, then you're in this kind of an area. You might not have such strong restrictions. So I wanted to go through some of this because there are variables to this that probably a lot of people don't think about, even at home. You can have multiple. You can actually communicate from devices that are on here to devices on there if you have it set properly. So these are some of the factors I wanted to bring up. If you have DHCP turned off on a second, third, fourth, or fifth router, whatever you want, basically what you're going to do is, like this model, you have the internet port. This is where your internet comes in from your modem or whatever other devices, routers, switches come in here. From here, go out to your other devices. What you would want to do is you don't use this port. You just use your switch port. From switch port to switch port. What that'll do is that'll let this one broadcast its Wi-Fi out, communicate back to that one. If you want to do DHCP, give out IP addresses and all of that type of stuff, then you use your internet port. From the internet port to the switch port. So basically your base model, your main one, you're going to use the same port. It's actually the device you connect to, you'll use the different port. You can Google it, you can research it, you can do more on it. But this is one of the factors I wanted to elaborate on, because I think that's where a lot of people are making a lot of their mistakes. And making sure that your IPs really aren't the same. You don't want to be handing out the same IP ranges. You don't want this device to have the same IP as the master device. That is really one of the main factors. You can actually, if you wanted to be in the same IP range, you give this one IP 1.1, you can actually give this one IP 1.2, so it knows what IP it is, and they're together on the same network. But of course, in your DHCP, you do not want to be giving out that same IPs to anybody who logs in. You want to make sure, I showed you how to log in and check all those settings on a different video. Go back and see that video. You want to make sure that you're not handing out the IP that's already being taken. That's going to be a static IP. So that's one of the big things. I see that a lot on calls that I go to, because I don't understand, we're having problems with this certain device and this device and that device. And what they did is they gave it an IP in the DHCP range. Even though they're only giving out 100 IPs in DHCP, for some weird reason, they put it in that range. Knock it out of that range. You have a range that's reserved, that you're not giving out IPs on. That's the IPs you use for this. Those are the static. So I wanted to go through that because I see that's really where the main problems are. And I wanted to touch base on that because, you know, I mentioned it in the other video. You can have multiple devices. You can have multiple things. And when I get into deploying, planning your network, and actually starting the network, I actually consider that all the same. Because you cannot really plan your network and deploy your network and actually start running your network where they're not tied together. Because usually when you go to do a network, what's the first thing you're going to go out and do? If you're home, oh, I'm going to go out and get internet. You go out and get internet. You got the internet, they give you your router with your modem, all that's hooked up. You hook that up, then you have a printer. How are you communicating to that printer? Are you USB? Are you wireless? How are you communicating to your printer? So these are some of those little factors that come into play kind of after the fact. That's why you might need multiple Wi-Fis. Maybe you already have everything set up in your house a certain way. You go out and get a new cable provider, internet provider, DSL, fiber optic, whatever new comes into town. They come in with this brand new device, has all the bells, whistles, all this stuff in it that they monitor. That's why I don't like them, because they log in and they monitor it, not me. That's why I use my own device, connect this device to their device, and I run all my traffic off of this. Actually, I'm running all my traffic off of this. On my last video, I went through that. So, before, I actually was running traffic off of this and this. This I was using for when I really needed the higher speeds. Basically, for YouTube. me uploading, me doing this, me doing that. All my little own stuff I was using on this. Everything else was basically being run through these. But this actual physical device is what I was using for everything else. It wasn't, the one I had was AC. I had everything in there, video streaming, all kinds of stuff, that music sharing. You have your USB ports. That could be a factor, again, why you're running multiple Wi-Fi. Features. Maybe you need a network share. Maybe you need one of those media sharing devices like this, where you need the USB port where you can plug in an external drive, you can plug in a USB drive, you can plug in whatever you want. Same with this model. This one actually has one in the front and one in the back. Maybe you need something like this also. So these are a lot of these factors I don't hear anybody talk about. It's all, I guess, you're supposed to know this, or hush hush, or I know it and you shouldn't have. I'm not going to tell you, so hush hush it. I don't know. I don't know what the secrecy is on some of these things, that nobody's talking about it no more. So this is really why I wanted to go through this. And I know I've rambled on about a lot of these key features and a lot of these things because, again, this is stuff I don't hear anybody talk about. This is stuff that might be very important to you at some time. Some of these even have where you can share your photos. I know some people love photos. They take photos and photos and photos and photos and photos. I take photos on special events and other things, and I post them to Facebook, and I share them to my family and other people who might be interested, or who cares, or who don't care. It's there. But there's some people that really collect millions of photos, or maybe that's their job, doing photos, where you might need to share them over multiple devices where people can see them. Maybe you have a studio where you're selling stuff. A shop selling stuff where you need to have your cataloged and categorized in certain ways where you can go on and pull them up, where any computer on your network can do that. So there's certain reasons why you might want to have multiple devices. Again, not other than my research and accounting and, you know, all those kind of departments. There's other reasons why you might need certain features. And again, if you get a modem from your internet provider and it doesn't have those kind of features, you might need to go out and get that. Again, I mentioned accounting, research, your sales. Maybe you need one that has those kind of certain features, but different features for two different departments, where you need two different ones that can do two different things. Of course, you can buy servers, and you can buy all kinds of other things that can do that, but then you have to have a dedicated room, and you got to have an IT person there that can support that. What happens if it goes down? What happens if the parts break? What happens? You have a million categories. And of course, now you have all the cloud stuff that comes in, and most of that, I think, is why a lot of this is not talked about, because they just tell you use the cloud. Cloud, you have a whole another security issues and a whole bunch of other stuff too to deal with. So, this is in-house. This is yours. It's on your network. If you have a firewall between your internet out and this, you should be safe and secure. You don't have to worry about prying eyes and all of that type of stuff. So, there's reasons why. So, let me go back to showing you actually the key differences in installation. It's not that hard. I know I've gone through it, but basically you have a network cable. This is your main router, internet provider. You plug your internet in, whatever your source could be from mesh network, bridging, could be from a switch, could be from your cable modem, could be from anything. Plug that in. Of course, you just plug your line in here. That's it. Of course, then you go into the whole categories of network lines, how it's run, where it's at, in the same room, how it's done, whatever. Have a million videos on all of that. Comes down to your secondary device. How do you want your secondary device to communicate? And what do you want it to do? You want it to be a standalone, completely on its own, with its own logins, its own information, where you can remote in and check it. Yeah, that's not a big deal. You might not ever check it. It might not be one of those concerns to you. So you might not have to worry about it. So you just make sure the IPs and all the configurations, all that set up, and you take it and you plug it in to where the internet is. You got your internet, you got everything. Maybe you have a business grade, maybe you have multiple business grades with the firewall, with different firewall settings. Then you definitely want to use the internet port, because that's what the firewall really protects, is your internet port. So then you have that all set up. Everybody can log in, everybody can communicate. Second scenario. You want your primary to handle all DHCP, handle all traffic, pretty much. Log who's there. Maybe that one has the firewall, this one doesn't. This one is basically an access point. Repeater, access point, router, does all the same job. This one is technically an access point / repeater. Has ports. Plug in, and it'll go through the network. So this can actually do the same job as this in this feature. So wanted to touch base on that, because I actually have a few of those deployed in a network. Used to have them over here in my office, but I went to the mesh network to get rid of all of this. That's what this one's here for, because that's what was being used. You take it, plug it in here, into your switch. Then that will communicate down to your other device. Same as this. Same as this. You can actually, that's the way I had it for years. Secondary device was this, but then meshed out all over. That way I had my primary device to do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about anything else on the network. IT professional / whatever you want to call it, guy that comes in, maintenances your network. Maybe he needs Wi-Fi. Here's another security issue. You have an outside company that comes in and monitors your stuff. Set up a second Wi-Fi, second login, all that type of information. When they come in, they can log in, they can monitor what they need to. When you fire them, bloop, 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 change their username and password. Guess what? That Wi-Fi is no longer good for them. Whatever new company that comes in, they have their way to access. So there are variables there. So I wanted to really throw that one out there. But this is really a complex project to do a simple little thing, because you have so many variables out there nowadays that are basically all the same thing. Hooking this up, hooking that up a certain way are basically the same things, other than you can do wireless through here. Goes back to if you have two different buildings with a repeater, access point type of device. I mentioned two of these. You can actually use your one wireless with the repeater that then can come out into any kind of switch, router, whatever you want. And then you have that kind of a network. Maybe you have just two physical buildings that are separated, where you don't want to trench, you don't want to do any of that type of stuff, you can do something like that. You can do a mesh between points as a backbone, as a jumper, as a bridge, where you might have two wireless networks actually in the building somewhere, but you got to get those two to communicate to each other. You can actually buy some of those that have the mesh feature in it. You can actually add a mesh. I mentioned a power injector. You can actually run a network cable between building to building. You can run fiber between building to building. You can do all kinds of stuff. There's wireless connections. There's all kinds of stuff out there that I really wanted to bring in to this. Because when you get into doing something like this, it can be pretty simple. I mentioned I found most of these at a thrift store. You can get them really cheap. Go out, configure, test, and test. Get it to do what you want. It's not going to cost you a fortune. So this is why I think a lot of people are doing this. Because right now, a lot of these devices you can get fairly cheap because there's just so many of them. So this is one of those factors that I've seen a lot. And I've seen this for years and years. It's not just today. This has been going on for years and years and years. Because of the Wi-Fi slowness of it talking to one device, that people want multiple Wi-Fis. And this gets into some of those videos that I talked about of Wi-Fi channels, the clutter. That's why there's the new 5 gigahertz network with the more channels. This is why there was so much clutter on those channels, because you can have really up to 3 devices on 2.4 on the 3 frequencies where they don't talk on top of each other. And a lot of people are doing that. They have 3 or 4 Wi-Fi devices because they can do that. There's certain little things that you can do. If you don't want a device to run through a device, you can actually put a dedicated switch. From the switch, run out to your 3 different Wi-Fis. Big businesses, you have the big switches that run out. You can run out to different Wi-Fis. And of course, if the Wi-Fis are far enough apart where this channel 1 won't see this channel 1, you can actually employ more Wi-Fi access points, routers, that way, because they're far enough apart, the frequencies aren't seeing each other. So I believe I have a whole video on Wi-Fi channels and all of that type of stuff. So go back and watch those videos. There's so many videos I have on there that are related to all of this. Done videos for almost 2 years due to this. Because now you're getting to the deployment. You're getting to your setup. How you want to do these things. How many of these do you need? Where do you need them? How do you connect them? How do you get this device to talk to this device? How far is this device from that device? What is physically possible? Can I run a network cable from this device to that device? Can I wireless them together? There's a million possibilities nowadays. It's not like in the old days where you had to run a physical wire from a router to a device. And in the old days, there was no router device. It was just wireless. You plugged in, that was it. It wasn't like these nice fancy little devices where you can plug in and plug out. It was, you plugged in and that was it. So you had to have all these multiple devices and all these type of things. So depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it and what you want your network to do, there's a lot of variety. So I wanted to cover that also, because I don't want to tell you you can only hook a switch to a switch and a switch to another switch. There's so much variety. You can actually have all of this all hooked up. If you really, really wanted to, you can have all of this stuff hooked up. It would all work if you knew how to set it with the IPs and how everything talked to each other. and DHCP wise. You could do all of this stuff. You can have it as access points, you can have repeaters, you can have everything under the sun you wanted to. But it's just how you configure it. And I don't really see too much of that explained. Like I've mentioned in some of the other videos, if you really dig and dig and dig, you'll go from this to this to this. But they don't talk about this and this can actually work together, and this can actually work together, and how you can get all this stuff and do what you want. So that's really what this video was about. Not only mesh, not only wireless, not only access points, but you can actually hook all these together. You can have multiple devices, but you have to go in and change the settings. You have to know how to do that. Got videos on that, how to go in and do that, showing you some of the settings you could change. That's why I went and did those videos, to show you how to do this type of steps. Most people probably won't ever really need to do this. Only reason why is, let's say you have an older one that you have a bunch of stuff hooked to that either is not compatible with the new one you have. Maybe you have like a Wi-Fi A or an old B something that B should be backwards compatible. That you have some old printers, some old print hubs, some old stuff maybe you have on your network, and you want to go out and buy a brand new Wi-Fi 6. Set the Wi-Fi 6 up as your primary, run off of that to your old one, so you still have all your capabilities of your old stuff on your old network. Not to mention, because it's so slow, that older stuff, it won't really slow down your newer one. So you separate those two, and you hook all your new stuff up, all your new Wi-Fi 6, all your new Wi-Fi stuff to that one, because it's better to have all Wi-Fi 6 attached to Wi-Fi 6. Hook all that up. You still have your old one for all your older devices till you change all those out to get to Wi-Fi 6. These are some of those little tiny things that can come into play. I'm saying Wi-Fi 6 now, but who knows in 2 years from now what they're going to have. Wi-Fi 6 might be that old stuff you're trying to change out for Wi-Fi 8, Wi-Fi 10, whatever, 12, whatever name they come up with next, whatever the next generation is. You might be in the same boat. Knowing this stuff now can save you time, save you money, save you some headaches. So, I know this video's gone on for really long for a simple little thing, but I really wanted to go through all of this again on this. It's really not that complicated of networking wise, but a lot of people don't do the configurations. And in the videos I've mentioned, this one might use 192.168.whatever. This one might not. This one could use 255.68. I've had a few of them that come up with some weird IP addresses, where you have to then really go in and set them similar. So that's why I go through some of this with you, so you understand this. Because even though it should use a certain IP address, I've had a few of these where I've defaulted them and they've come up with kind of a strange IP address. And then I've looked them up, and that certain model used that certain IP address for some weird reason. I'm not actually too sure why, but the manufacturer site does state that. So I wanted to bring that up, because those are those variables that come into play where people can have a lot of issues. And hopefully this will resolve a lot of headaches and a lot of issues. Because when I go to deploy something, or I go to do something, first thing I do is I log in, go through and start setting things up. I don't go by what the manufacturer default is. I don't go by what I needed, what they recommend, or what they think. You know, I know what the network is. I know what I'm adding it to. I go through and I configure it. Usually I have no problems. So this is why I wanted to do this video, because I've heard a lot of people, oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. Let me show you. And when I'm all done, they go, what? How did you do that? Let me show you inside. I got it all done in here. I've done it. So, and I'm not doing this to toot my own horn type of thing. I'm doing this to make sure everybody's aware. To make sure everybody knows what can be done and how to do it. To get over these little pitfalls that, and everybody's saying, oh, no, you can't do that. And then there's very few people that say, oh, yeah, you can do that, no problem. How do you do that? I don't know. I'm trying to tell you, this is how you do it. This is the key things to look at. These are the things to watch for. What you can do. DHCP on, DHCP off. And why. And how that varies depending on all these other devices that you might want to connect to it. Alright, I think I will wrap this one up. Hope everybody likes it. I hope it answered enough questions. Next video is the big one, the deployment that I'll be doing. You think this one's long? Wait till the next one, because that now covers 2 years worth of data. Alrighty, make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the bell, let everybody know I'm out there.